Verse 11 speaks of gold as a gift, words in season. Verse 12 speaks of words of warning, words of correction, words of warning. Be careful that you don't do that or go that way. That can also be like a golden ring or jewelry made of the finest gold, if we are willing to listen. It's a good thing to have a ear to listen to those who have more wisdom than us. And our attitude should be like someone coming to us with a very expensive gift. Think if somebody came to you on your birthday and gave you a word of rebuke as a gift. You think, what a person he is to rebuke me even on my birthday. Couldn't he wait for another day? But think if a person came to you on your birthday and gave you a gift worth 1,000 rupees. It says here that word of correction is more than that gift of 1,000 rupees. Think to take it like that. That, why do I think that on my birthday a person shouldn't give me any word of correction? Because I think that's not a good thing. That's why I think it's not fit for birthdays. That's Father's Day. Birthday is a day I should be happy. But it is to make us happy that a wise person gives us something which is good. A warning given by a wise person is an extremely valuable gift, provided we have a listening ear, it says in verse 12. Verse 13. A reliable messenger or a faithful messenger, it says in the Good News Bible, is refreshing to the one who sends him like cold water in the heat of harvest time. Harvest time, summertime is a very hot time, and a drink of cold iced water is so refreshing in the hot summertime. In exactly the same way, it says a faithful messenger is equally refreshing to the one who sends him. In the Good News Bible, in the Living Bible, it reads like this: a faithful employee is as refreshing as a cool day in the summertime, in the hot summertime. You know how refreshing it is when we have one cool day in the hot summertime. And we can apply that to our own calling, to be messengers of the Lord. That the emphasis here is not on a clever messenger. Because if it said here, a clever messenger, many of us may not be clever, then God may not be able to pick us up. But it doesn't say clever, it says a faithful messenger. In other words, according to the light you have in your life, to that light you are faithful. And you are a faithful messenger of the light you have to take it to others who don't have that light. You may not be clever, you may not be able to express it very well, but you're faithful to pass that on to others. You're as refreshing to God as a glass of cold water. Whoever gives a cup of cold water in my name, he will not lose his reward. And you're just as refreshing as someone who gives a cup of cold water to God's heart. A faithful messenger is one who proclaims the whole counsel of God, doesn't hold back any part of God's message. Verse 14, it says here, like clouds and wind without rain is a man who boasts of his gifts falsely. That's a very appropriate word for the days in which we live. What does it mean to boast of gifts falsely? There's a lot of it in our country and in America and many other parts of the world. People claim to have a gift of healing when they don't have it. Nobody wants the gift of helps, because that's not so spectacular. But the gift of healing particularly, people like to claim that they have it. And there are a lot of people like that, claiming to have certain gifts. But by their fruits you shall know them. The evidence that a person has the gift is that he prays for the sick, and the sick are healed. And if a person prays for the sick and they're not healed, that means There is no gift there. It can be a boasting of a gift falsely. There's a tremendous amount of it. I believe there are gifts of healing in the church throughout the world, but there are very few. But every Tom, Dick and Harry nowadays wants to be a healer. And there's a lot of that boasting of gifts falsely. And it says here that's like a lot of black clouds coming over and a dry, parched area that hasn't rained for many months. And you say, at last rain is coming. And you wait, and then the clouds pass on, and there's no rain. There's a disappointment. I've seen that in healing meetings, people coming with great expectation. I remember once sitting in a meeting where there was an American healer. It was about 20 years ago. And sitting next to me was a Hindu couple with two blind babies. And they passed the offering bag around, and they would have put a handsome amount in, because they would have thought in their Hindu minds, this is probably necessary for my children to be healed. And then of course those children were not healed, and I got so angry with that type of presentation of a Christ who was going to disappoint them. Clouds without rain. I think those people would have been turned more away from the Lord, if at all they would have ever come to the Lord. That type of thing would ensure that they never come to Christ when they encounter that type of thing. It's better to be humble and not to claim that we have some ability which we don't have. Be honest and humble. Yeah, brother, I don't have the gift of healing, but I can pray that God will bless you. And if it is His will, heal you, or if that is not, that He'll give you grace to bear it. And let those who have the gift of healing exercise those other ministries. It's good to have small thoughts about ourselves instead of ending up like clouds and there's no rain, disappointing people and turning them away from the Lord. It also, another translation of this in the Living Bible reads like this, verse 14. One who does not give the gift that he promised is like a cloud blowing over a desert without dropping any rain. And that teaches us, particularly towards our children as parents, that if you promise to give a gift for some particular thing they've done, you must make sure that you keep your word. It's wrong to promise something and then when the time comes you sort of back out of it and don't keep your word. It's far better not to promise in such cases. Verse 15. I'll read that in the Good News Bible. It says, patient persuasion can break down the strongest resistance and can even convince rulers. That we are not going to get our way and accomplish what we want to accomplish by being hard, but by patience and goodness. It says here, even a ruler can be persuaded. It's a good word for us to bear in mind when we go to all these government offices and have to deal with so many different people who are hard in various ways, that it's all right for them to be hard, but we're not going to accomplish anything by being hard ourselves. It's better to be patient. And with patience and goodness and persuasion, it says, even a ruler can be persuaded. And I love that, like that phrase, which it says here in the NASB, a soft tongue. We don't receive that when we are born. We are born with a hard tongue. When we are converted, our tongue still doesn't become soft. But think to have that as a goal in life. Lord, 3 beautiful words. A soft tongue. I want to make that my goal in life. To have a soft tongue towards all people. A very wonderful goal to have and to work towards. Verse 16 and 17. We need to read this together. Good News Bible, it says, never eat more honey than you need. Too much may make you vomit. You know that. Honey is a very good thing. It's very tasty. But if you eat too much of it, you'll end up vomiting. He says, in exactly the same way, Don't visit your neighbor too often. Your fellowship with your neighbor may be just like honey. Wonderful. Very good fellowship. But if you have too much of it, go too frequently to that person's house, you'll end up with each vomiting the other out. And that's very true. Familiarity breeds contempt. Your neighbor may get tired of you and come to hate you and may want to vomit you out because you're landing up there all the time. And that's not only Christianity, that's basic good manners. I mean, even non-Christians understand that. It's amazing to see how so many Christians don't seem to have the wisdom which non-Christians have in this area. This is not Christianity, it's just plain good manners. That you don't visit your neighbor too often. It doesn't say don't visit your neighbor at all, but don't make the visits so frequent because you say, we're good friends. Yeah, that's true, but don't eat too much honey. That can make you vomit. It's good to have a restraint in these things. It's good to be disciplined, just like in the matter of eating. That you don't eat too much, you eat just enough. In the same way, even visiting one another, that's a good thing. It's like honey. Fellowship is like honey, true fellowship. But one needs to be careful in visiting one another, that there is a wisdom here, that we don't act foolishly. I want to read a verse in 1 Timothy 5:13. We have seen it before. It speaks there about the younger women. It says there, the younger women, when they are idle, they go around from house to house and become gossips and busybodies. And that teaches us that in this particular matter, the sisters are more in danger than the brothers. And when you read that in the Word of God, every God-fearing sister will really take that seriously and say, Lord, I'm in greater danger here because I'm a sister and I'm young and I've got a lot of free time. If you're a sister and you're young and you've got a lot of free time, then just meditate a little while on 1 Timothy 5:13, because you fall into all three categories. You're young, you're a sister, and you've got a lot of free time. That danger applies particularly to you. Now we go to verse 18. Like a club and a sword and a sharp arrow is a man who bears false witness against his neighbor. Backbiting. It often gives a false picture of the truth. It's like, it says here, a false accusation is as deadly as a sword, a club, or a sharp arrow. What if we have been the ones who have suffered because of somebody else's sword or club or sharp arrow? Say somebody has backbitten against us and it's like a club or a sword or a sharp arrow that somebody has hit us with.